Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Mentor Hour sponsored by Lawyer. Today's topic for Mentor Hour is to bail or not to bail, an overview of bail laws in India. With me today is very special guest, Advocate Dilraj Rohit Sekera, an advocate of the High Court of Karnataka. Advocate Dilraj has over 18 years experience in various criminal, civil, family, and property law matters. Mr. Dilraj, it's an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you, Samir.
Thank you, sir. Just before we begin, I'd like to remind the audience of two things. One, please make sure that throughout the entire seminar that your microphones are on mute. We would only like to hear Dilraj sir and no one else till the end of the presentation. And two, we will be giving out an attendance link as always. So please fill out that attendance link and so that you can be marked present for this webinar. Thank you, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, all friends. The subject today is with regard to bail and bonds. Every citizen of India has a fundamental right to freedom guaranteed under Article 21 of Constitution of India, which specifically states no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. Any individual who violates the law of the land is bound to face consequences as per the law. And in such a case, his freedom may be restricted depending upon the gravity of the offense he has committed. Chapter 33 of Code of Criminal Procedure provides for provisions for bail and bonds. Before commencing the webinar on bail and bonds, I would like to let you know or bring to your knowledge that there are 37 chapters in Criminal Procedure Code with 484 sections. To begin with, Samir, first slide, bail, meaning of what is bail? Bail refers to provisional release of the accused in a criminal case in which the court is yet to announce the judgment. The section 437 and 439 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 provide for bail provision. And with regard to post-conviction bail, section 389 of CRPC provides for that after conviction bail. Now, as I said, chapter 33 deals with the bail bonds. Section 436 to 450 deals with the bail bonds. In this, 436 deals with the bail in bailable cases. Samir, next. State of Rajasthan, Jaipur versus Balchand alias Baleli, 1977. The Supreme Court in his landmark judgment has held that bail is a rule, jail is an exception. The judgment was based on several rights that have been guaranteed by the Constitution of India, with Article 21 being the most important one. The main purpose of detention is to ensure easy proceedings by availing the accused for the trial without any inconvenience. Thus, if it can be ensured that the accused will be available as and when required for the trial, then detaining the person is not necessary. Commenting upon this, when a person is arrested, the police under section 57 arrests the accused, and police can detain an accused for 24 hours. That is under section 57 of CRPC. Once that period of 24 hours gets over, he has to be produced before the jurisdictional magistrate. Jurisdictional magistrate, invoking the powers under section 167 of CRPC, either remands him to the police custody or to the judicial custody. And this judicial custody under 167 can be for a maximum period of 60 days or 90 days, depending upon the offense committed by the accused. So once the charge sheet is filed, then the detention of the accused comes to an end under Article 167, and if the offense is triable by the Sessions Court, the case is committed to the Sessions Court, and under section 309, the accused is detained in the custody. So as I said, section 21 says, article 21 of the Constitution says, no person shall be deprived of his liberty except the procedure established by law. So the provision of law provides for detention of accused in the custody. In the first instance, section 57 provides, that is to the police, and second instance 167, and thereafter section 309. Now, whether a person has to be released or to be detained in jail, as said in the case law, the trial without any inconvenience, if it can be ensured that, so if court feels that the person who has accused an offense can be released on bail, then the bail is granted to him on the assurance that on every hearing date he will be produced before the court. Now, detention of the accused in the judicial custody is only with the purpose so that on every hearing date he is produced before the court as and when court requires. Now, same task, same as soon as the court grants bail, it doesn't mean that the accused will get the golden wings to fly away from the course of justice. He is under the custody of the court. His custody is transferred from the custody of the court to the custody of the sureties, where by way of filing affidavit, surety undertakes him to produce before the court as and when required. Samir, next slide. So bailable and non-bailable offences. In CRPC, the offences are divided into two kinds. One is bailable and non-bailable. So bailable offences, as I said, the bail can be obtained under section 436 of CRPC, or where the punishment for the offence is below 3 years. In those offences are called bailable offences. Non-bailable offences, where in the second schedule, where it is mentioned that the non-bailable offences in CRPC, there is a second schedule, and these offences are mentioned there, and those offences are non-bailable offences. For getting a bail under section 4 non-bailable offences, there is a provision called 437, that is by the magistrate, and 439 by the Court of Sessions or by the High Court. Samir, next session. Next slide. Bailable offences. The definition of bailable offences we find in section 2A of Code of Criminal Procedure, which defines the offence that has been shown in first schedule as bailable, or which is made bailable by way of any other law for the time being in force, as per the last item of the first schedule. An offence, in order to be bailable, would have to be an offence which is punishable with imprisonment for less than 3 years or with fine only. The common offences like 337, 354A, 354D, it is non-bailable, 354A, and some other offences which you find in the schedule, first schedule of CRPC. Next slide, Samir. Right to be released on bail. As per section 650 of CRPC, if the offence for which the person is arrested is bailable one, it is the duty of the police to inform that he is entitled to be released on bail after giving surety. So in the case of Rashika versus Kishore 2009 SCC 446, Honorable Supreme Court has held that in case a person is arrested for any bailable offence, his right to claim bail is absolute and indefeasible. And if the person accused is prepared, the court or the police, as the case may be, will be bound to release him on bail. It is the duty of the magistrate, when the accused is brought before the magistrate, to inform him if the offence is bailable one, that if the accused is prepared to give surety, he shall be released on bail. Yeah, coming to next slide. Non-bailable offences. As per section 2A of CRPC, non-bailable offence includes all those offences which are not included in bailable offences in the first schedule. Further, The first schedule in its second part at its end has defined non-bailable offense as the offenses which are punishable with death, imprisonment for life, or imprisonment for more than 7 years. Some of the common non-bailable offenses are theft, attempt to murder, 376 rape, 302 murder. All these offenses are non-bailable offenses for which when the accused is produced before the magistrate will remand the accused either to the police custody for investigation, or if the investigation is concluded within the specified period which is given, for which the accused is given to the police custody, thereafter will remand him to the judicial custody till the filing of the charge sheet. And once the charge sheet is filed, again during the course of investigation, that is for the period of 90 days under section 167, when he was detained under the judicial custody, the accused can move for bail or after a filing of the charge sheet, that is changed circumstances, we call it as changed circumstance, he can file application for grant of bail either to the sessions court. Once it is granted in the sessions court, as usual, as a procedure prescribed, he will furnish surety and come out of the jail. If the bail application is rejected by the sessions court, he has to move to the high court by way of filing 439 application for grant of bail. Samir, move on. Types of bail in India. Depending upon the stage of criminal matter, there are commonly 3 types of bail. Regular bail. A regular bail is generally granted to a person who has been arrested or is in police custody. A bail application can be filed for regular bail under section 437 and 439 of Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. Interim bail. The type of bail is granted for short period of time and it is granted before hearing for the grant of regular bail and or anticipatory bail. Interim bail. If the accused files an application for interim bail, say for example, he is suffering from certain ailment and he has to undergo surgery. Normally, the jail authorities have their own medical practitioner, and in serious cases, he is taken out of jail for hospital to the hospital for treatment. And if the accused convinces the court that the treatment which he would receive in the jail is not sufficient, not satisfactory, then he can convince the court saying that on his own expenses, he is ready to bear the expenses on his own and he finds it convenient to get his treatment outside the jail in a private hospital. In such eventuality, the courts have granted bail, interim bail to the accused persons. And one more example is, suppose one of the family members is getting married and the accused is in, he may be a brother, father, he is in judicial custody. In such an eventuality also for a particular day, number of days, court has granted interim bail. Suppose there happens a death in the family, for attending the funeral, the court have granted interim bail. Now coming to third kind of bail is anticipatory bail. Anticipatory bail is granted under section 438 of Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, either by Sessions Court or High Court. An application for grant of anticipatory bail can be filed by person who discerns that he may be arrested by the police for non-bailable offense. Now the question is whether a person can file anticipatory bail application for a bailable offense. So as soon as he goes to the police station in a bailable offense, there may be chances that the offense alleged is bailable, and when he goes to the police station, that there is apprehension that higher offense, the charge of higher nature may be charged against him and he may be arrested. In such an eventuality, even though says the section says only in non-bailable offenses anticipatory bail can be granted, and the accused convinces the court that even though offense is bailable nature, but there are chances that when he goes to the police station, the accused may be, he may be arrested and remanded to judicial custody. In such situation, he can invoke the jurisdiction of anticipatory bail court. Anticipatory bail 438 provides for anticipatory bail when the accused is having apprehension of arrest. In a non-bailable offense, the police can arrest without warrant. So if a person feels that there is an offense alleged against him and there are chances of he being arrested, the apprehension should be there, not just belief, but he should have apprehension of arrest. In such cases, the accused can invoke the jurisdiction of anticipatory bail. Samir, next. Bail in bailable offences. 436, as I said, 436 CRPC provides for bail in bailable cases. There are sufficient reasons to believe that accused has not committed the offense. There is sufficient reason to conduct further inquiry in the matter. The person is not accused or of any offense punishable with death, life, imprisonment, or imprisonment up to 10 years. In such cases, the courts will grant bail in bailable cases. Now, the criteria to grant bail in non-bailable cases is the prima facie-ness of the case, whether there exists prima facie case or not, which the court have to come across and take into consideration. Next slide. 437 of CRPC lays down that the accused does not have the right to apply for bail in non-bailable offences. It is discretion of the court to grant bail in cases of non-bailable offences. Conditions for bail in non-bailable offences are: if the accused is a woman or child, bail can be granted in a non-bailable offence. If there is a lack of evidence, then bail in non-bailable offences can be granted. If there is a delay in lodging FIR by the complainant, bail may be granted. If the accused is gravely sick, then bail can be granted in non-bailable offences. These are few criteria which court will consider at the time of grant of bail in non-bailable cases. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, as I said, anticipatory bail can be granted by the High Court or Court of Session. It is the direct jurisdiction for Sessions Court and High Court to entertain the law anticipatory bail. Law Commission in the 41st report recommended for incorporation. In the old CRPC, the provision for anticipatory bail was not available. So it is by way of 41st amendment, the section 438 is incorporated. Anticipatory bail allows a person to seek bail in anticipation of his arrest on accusation of having committed a non-bailable offense. Anticipatory bail is a direction to release a person on bail issued even before a person is arrested. Next slide. Eligibility for anticipatory bail. When any person apprehends that there is a move to get him arrested on false or trumped up charges, or due to enmity with someone, or he fears that a false case is likely to be built up against him, he has the right to move the Court of Session or High Court under section 438 clause 1 of CRPC for grant of bail. In the event of his arrest, the direction will be given to the police stating that you release him on bail, but he has to appear on the prescribed date for investigation. So once the investigation is concluded, then thereafter the regular procedure will follow. So in some cases, the courts have granted time limit to the bail under section 438, like 1 month time, 2 months time, 15 days time. And the Supreme Court has held that once the bail is granted under 438 of CRPC, it holds good till the conclusion of the trial. In Satlingappa Siddharamappa Satlingappa Maitre versus State of Maharashtra,
Sorry, so
situation was-
one second. I'd just like to remind everyone to please keep yourselves on mute. Thank you very much. Please continue, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was saying every accused who has been frivolously charged with the allegation of non-bailable offense is not only entitled to good defense, but also eligible to be released on bail by the court. And the consideration or various factors such as nature or seriousness of the offense, the character of evidence, the circumstances which are peculiar to the accused, the reasonable apprehension of the witnesses being tampered with, the larger interest of the public or state, and similar other factors. It is a solemn duty of the court. It is the duty of the court to decide the bail application at the earliest. It cannot be dragged for years, to, months together or weeks together. As soon as the bail application is filed, the court will issue notice to the public prosecutor, and thereafter public prosecutor is given an opportunity to file his objections. And immediately after filing of the objections, the counsel for the applicant or the petitioner is heard. The counsel for the state, the public prosecutor is heard, and the bail applications are disposed of. Based on the bona fides of the applicant, in the light of the prevailing facts and circumstances, the bail applications are decided. Now, what are the considerations for grant or refusal of the bail? As I said, the prima facie-ness of the case. The court has to look into prima facie, whether the accused has made up a prima facie case for grant of bail or refusal of bail. At the time of deciding bail application seeking bail, court will look into this factor importantly, that is prima facie-ness of the case. Court should not go, court will not look into the merits of the case, or the court will appreciate the evidence which is available at the time of deciding the bail. The primary consideration is nature and gravity of the offense. While adjudicating the bail application, the court should only go into or look into the question as to accused has made out a prima facie case for or against. The court, as I said, the credibility of witnesses or the prosecution witnesses cannot be looked into. The statement of prosecution witnesses cannot be looked into or relied upon by the courts. Yeah, next slide, Samir. Sorry. Condition for yeah, we are coming back. The condition for granting anticipatory bail. Court can grant anticipatory bail after taking into consideration the following factors. As I said, the nature and gravity of the accusation, the antecedents of the applicant, the possibility of the applicant fleeing away from the course of justice. When the accusation has been made with the object of injuring or humiliating the applicant or having him arrested. So there are certain instances where the person is having animosity against other. Somehow he wants to get him bad name to him or tarnish his image. So he files a frivolous complaint against him saying that so and so person has committed an offense which is non-bailable in nature. So definitely police will go and arrest him, because for arresting accused who is alleged of non-bailable offense, warrant is not required. And in such eventuality, the only course of action available to the person who is accused of false accusation is to approach the court under section 438 for grant of bail. Samir, next slide. Interim bail. When an application for grant of bail is filed before the court like Supreme Court or High Court, it requires document. The subjective satisfaction of the court is very important. This slide explains what are the documents required. Apart from submissions or pleadings or averments in the application, the documents play important role to convince the court. So as we say, as there is a saying, the documents speak more than the words. So if there is a concrete document to show that why a person accused of any offense is to be released on interim bail or regular bail or anticipatory bail, the documents pakka documents need to be provided before the court. The prosecution will collect its own documents, such as the Mahazar Panchanama of the place of occurrence, the statement of witnesses, and so on. At the time of filing, all these combined documents will be in the form of charge sheet, and they will be placed before the court. Court will consider all those documents just to see the prima facie-ness of the case, whether the accused has a prima facie case. But the importance of the bail is whether the accused will come before the court as and when required. It is not that if the court feels that accused is not going to come before the court when it requests, when the court maybe for framing of the charges, during the course of examination of the witnesses, at the time of recording of 313 statement, or at the time of pronouncing the judgment. If accused is not available and court feels that, then court may deny bail. The courts normally grant bail based on the principle that until and unless a person is proved guilty, he is presumed to be innocent. And courts feel that a person who is presumed to be innocent, should he be detained in the jail? That factor has to be considered by the court. A person who is presumed to be innocent until proved guilty, should he be detained in the jail? Next slide. Yeah, now cancellation of bail. What is the criteria for cancellation of bail? Under section 439 clause 2, the courts can cancel the bail if the conditions imposed by the court at the time of grant of bail are not complied with, or the conditions are violated. Few of the examples are the interference or attempt to interfere with the due course of administration of justice by the accused, the evasion or attempt to evade the course of justice by the accused. The accused has abused the liberty granted to him by the court. Evasion or attempt to evade is accused is not coming before the court on the hearing dates. That is evasion of course of justice. Abuse the liberty of the court. Court grants him bail on a condition that on all the hearing dates, the accused has to appear before the court. And the accused doesn't appear before the court, it is abusal of the liberty granted to him. The accused misuses the liberty by indulging similar criminal activities. There may be a condition at the time of grant of bail. If the accused indulges in similar offences after grant of bail, then his bail may be cancelled. And if the accused who has been enlarged on bail commits the same offence, then he has misused the liberty of the court. He has misused the confidence of the court, which has been imposed by the court on him. Accused interferes with the course of investigation. Before filing the charge sheet, the investigation is not complete. If a person is enlarged on bail during the investigation stage, then court will surely impose a condition that as and when required, the accused shall appear before the investigating officer. If the accused does not himself make appearance or appear before the investigating officer, then it is nothing but interference with the course of investigation. In such eventuality, the court can cancel the bail. The accused attempts to tamper with the evidence or witnesses. After grant of bail, suppose there are 10 witnesses, the accused slowly approaches the witnesses, tries to influence them, tries to deviate from their statement and depose for him, and it comes to the knowledge of the police or prosecution. In such case, the prosecution or police move the application for cancellation of bail, and courts can cancel the bail. The accused threaten the witnesses or indulges in similar activities. In some cases, the accused threaten witnesses. If you don't depose in my favor, I will see to it that your life or limbs will be in danger. If the person who has been threatened, he informs the police or prosecution, and if the application is moved for cancellation of bail, the courts will definitely cancel the bail granted to the accused. Samir, next slide. The few of the landmarks judgment by Supreme Court as well as various high courts, Nityanand Ravi versus State of Bihar, where the bail has been cancelled. The circumstances, the grounds needs to be mandatory. Refer the conduct of the accused while he was on bail. So as I said, the conduct of the accused plays important role. So court grants bail on believing that the accused will comply and abide by the conditions. And if he has not done so, and he is not been up to the mark to which court reposed confidence on him, then the bail can be cancelled. Ankit Sharma versus State. Here also, while dealing with the hearing of the bail application, the focus of the court is on the violation of conditions of bail. On the other hand, while dealing with cancellation of bail, the court also focuses on whether actual violation has taken place or not. It is not just allegation that a person has violated the bail condition. The concrete proof is required to the court to see that actually the bail conditions are violated. Only after conclusively satisfied, subjective satisfaction of the court is very important. After court being satisfied that a person who was enlarged on bail has abused the process of the court, abused the confidence of the court, then the court will cancel the bail. Next. Yeah, Gurbakh Singh CBI. It is a landmark judgment with regard to the anticipatory bail. So as we discussed anticipatory bail, various factors are taken into consideration for grant of anticipatory bail. Now, one more circumstance, whether it is mandatory to file, before filing an application, whether it is mandatory that FIR has to be registered. So in Gurbakh Singh CBI, the Supreme Court has come down saying that even though there is no FIR or FIR has not been registered and the accused has apprehension of his being arrested by the police, he can move the application for grant of anticipatory bail. A police may issue notice to the accused asking him to come to the police station for an inquiry. And on his own inquiry, the accused comes to know that there are chances of he being accused for an offense under section 3, say for action section 376 of IPC. So IPC is non-bailable. If he is arrested, he will be remanded to the judicial custody. In such eventuality, even though FIR is not registered and the accused convinces or applicant convinces the court that he has apprehension of being arrested after he goes to the police station, as they have called him for inquiry, then to the subjective satisfaction of the court, the anticipatory bail can be granted. Balchanda Jain versus State of Madhya Pradesh. The court in this case decided upon the object of section 438. It held that the underlying object of section 438 is that the moment a person is arrested, if he has already obtained an order from the sessions judge or the high court, he would be released immediately without having to undergo the rigorous of jail even for few days. which would necessarily be taken up if he has to apply for bail after arrest. Yeah, next slide.
Thank you, sir, for your
Yeah,
inputs. We've been getting a lot of questions throughout the webinar, which we will address now. Everyone who still hasn't sent in their questions, you can send them in now, please, and I will be answered by sir. So the first question comes from Shekhar Sahu, who's actually asked quite a few questions during this webinar. He asked, is there a time limit to file a charge sheet by the police?
Yeah, as I said, if the offense is punishable with imprisonment for 10 years, then and if the accused is in judicial custody, the time limit is 60 days. So if the offense is punishable with 10 years and more, the time limit is 90 days.
I hope that answered the question. The next question comes. Yes, sir, of course.
Yeah, you can carry on.
The next question comes from Anushka Gupta, who says, if a person is in jail for a non-bailable offense, till what time can he be kept in custody, especially with respect to situations where trial takes very long to start?
Yeah, nice question.
Sir, just to clarify, when I say non-bailable offense, I know that there are some offenses in which, there are still a few conditions which have to be met, but say it's a very grave non-bailable offense, like which has a punishment of imprisonment for life. In that case, then, yeah.
Yeah, see, section 437A was incorporated by way of 25th amendment coming into effect from 25th June 2006, where it has said, in a case where the punishment is not death or life imprisonment, and the accused has undergone imprisonment for more than or half of the sentence. Suppose the punishment is 10 years and accused has undergone 5 years of imprisonment, then the accused has to be released on personal bond. That was 436A was amended and inserted by way of amendment. This is because in few cases, for even though the punishment, if the accused was convicted and punishment was 10 years, there were people were in jail for more than the period if they were convicted. So taking this into consideration, this piece of law was inserted to the CRPC. Is that clear?
Okay, I think that's
Apart
answered.
Apart from that, there is one more provision under section 437 clause 6, which says a magistrate, after the the first date fixed for trial, and trial is not concluded within 60 days, then in such case also the accused shall be released on bail.
All right, sir. Sir, one small follow-up question, which is in the case that after the trial is done and they were acquitted, what are the remedies provided for the amount of time that they spent in jail?
Yeah, as such, there is no compensation as under section 357. There is a provision called victim compensation. So this was a very good question, where accused who has spent maybe 1 or 2 years in jail and finally comes out on acquittal, whether he can claim compensation. The only case he can file against the complainant is by way of for malicious prosecution. There is no specific provision in CRPC for claiming compensation. So he has to claim from a complainant by filing a separate suit for malicious prosecution.
All right, sir. Thank you.
So I would like to ask a question. Though he is in jail for more than a period of after a period of 1 year also, he has no right to claim towards the complainant, whoever convicted him.
So sorry, before you begin, I'd request everyone to please send in your questions first. When we address your questions, then you can maybe come in if the question hasn't been answered, because a lot of people have sent in questions previously. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, there is no specific provision for the accused compensation. Yeah, he has to claim from the complainant by filing a separate suit.
Okay. So Devendra Shukla has also sent in a question asking that recently the government announced that to make a special security forces to protect all heritage, they can arrest anyone without a warranty. Can in this case anybody get bail?
Yeah, bail is a different subject matter. The arrest of the accused is on the allegation. So now the detention of the accused is with a specific purpose. As I said, only purpose is as and when court requires, he has to be produced before the court. And if that satisfaction is, if court finds that even though if he is released, he will be available to the trial, or whenever court wants him, he can be brought before the court, he can be released on bail, whatever may be the grave offense.
Okay. Sekhar Shahu also has another couple of questions. The first one is, till when can anticipatory bail be valid? Is it till the end of the trial?
Yes, the Maharashtra, the Supreme Court has held in Siddhalingappa Satlingappa Maitre versus State of Maharashtra. In, if I am not mistaken, in 2015, the anticipatory bail once granted doesn't have limitation. It holds good till the end of the trial.
Also, that if a person is booked under two separate cases of bailable offenses by the
for
same...
for one particular case, not for two cases.
Yeah, so
one crime
only
number.
one case.
One
Okay.
crime number, one particular crime number, not two cases.
Yeah. Yeah, so Abhay Shukla is asking, can a pregnant woman be released on bail on the grounds of pregnancy even in heinous offenses?
Yes, there is a provision under 437. 437 says even the women, infirm or sick person can be released on bail.
Okay.
Provision of section to
Yeah.
section 437.
Okay, thank you, sir. Shekhar Sahu also has one more question. When a bail order is passed by a judge, can he or she put conditions as to when granting a bail? If yes, up to what extent can they put certain conditions?
Yeah, conditions are imposed by the court. If court feels that a person should not go out of the jurisdiction of the court without the permission of the court, even such conditions are also imposed. If a person wants to go, the passport has to be surrendered, then court will impose a condition that the passport of the accused shall be deposited in the court. So, and if in future, whenever if the accused wants to go away, from the India to other country, then he has to take permission of the court, and the subjective satisfaction of the court that after he has taken his passport, on imposing certain sureties and further conditions, will release his passport and give permission for him to travel. So as the personal liberty of under Article 21, even the movement of the person cannot be restrained. Considering those aspects, these conditions are relaxed in certain cases.
So is this also only applicable to international travel, or would the person require special permission from the judge to even make interstate travel?
If the condition is passed by the court at the time of granting bail that the accused should not leave the jurisdiction of the court, then the interstate travel permission is required.
Okay, sir. And apart from the special rights of a pregnant woman regarding bail, are there any other special rights with respect to women and the granting of bail?
Yeah, that's what I said. Even considering bail application under 439 or 438, the proviso available under section 437 will be taken into consideration, which says the women uh, person aged below 16 years, aged sick or infirm person can be released on bail.
Okay. I think one of the final questions that we have to us right now is from Mr. Pranshu Ratan. He says that a person that has been, I'm sorry, my internet is little. So sorry. If a person has been accused of multiple offences, some of which are bailable and some of which are non-bailable, then what is the rule of rule in such situations, especially when the main offence is covered under a special act and related offences under IPC?
Each case has to be considered on its own merits. As I said, the criteria for the court to consider the application, bail application, or released an accused who is alleged of the offense is his availability before the court, not the gravity of the offense. The gravity of the offense is taken into consideration in cases where the person is a habitual offender, or the offense committed by him is coming under the category of rarest of rare cases, or ghastly offense, or the offense which is affecting the economy of the country, or against the interest of the country, against the which is threat to the security of the country. In such cases, or the MOCA cases or COCA cases, MOCA case is Maharashtra control of organized crime, or Karnataka control of organized crime. In all states, the enactment is there, organized crime syndicate. In such cases, court will see as to the possibility of the accused appearing to take up the trial, or winning over the witnesses, hampering the investigation. All those things will be considered before granting the bail, and each case will be considered on its own merits. There cannot be a blanket order by the court for all cases.
Okay, sir. Thank you. We have a couple more questions. Anushka Gupta, would you like to address the question straight to Sir himself? But before that, I'd just like to remind our audience to please fill up the attendance sheet that has been circulated in the chat box. If you do not fill that up, then we won't be able to mark you present for the webinar. Anushka Gupta, you can address the question to Sir directly if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. So like there are a few laws that are that function on a special, more restrictive kind of bail, which is basically there are additional clauses which have to be fulfilled. And right now I'm talking in reference to the UAPA or the NDPS, which is especially relevant today with the SSR case. So with the bail order in those cases, there is an additional clause that the accused has to fulfill for getting bail, which is that there are, first of all, reasonable grounds to believe that they are not guilty of the offense. And in NDPS, there's also the clause that there is additional reasonable ground to believe that they will not commit a similar offense. So I wanted to understand how we can interpret the term reasonable ground, because like how have courts, because this is a very ambiguous term. So I just wanted to understand how the courts have taken this term and given it a more structured meaning which the accused can use.
There is a special provision in the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, as well as the NDPS Act, as well as in all the organized crime acts, that before granting bail, the public prosecutor has to be given notice. And in these cases, even the provision for anticipatory bail is not available. If a person is alleged of organized crime act, then anticipatory bail provision is not available. He has to be arrested and he has to seek for regular bail. And in those cases, court will definitely consider, even though it is, as I said, merits should not be considered. Here, consideration of merits is one of the grounds. Suppose a person is alleged of NDPS case, and maybe he may be a drug peddler. Comparing it to a murder, 302 offense. If a person commits murder, he has committed the murder of one person at one time. Whereas a drug peddler, by supplying drug to hundreds of people, he is killing them every day, hundreds of people every day. So those criteria will be taken into consideration by the courts. Hope you
Right.
got your.
Sir, so my question was mostly just with the term reasonable grounds. So what exactly
Yes,
has
these are the reasonable grounds. When these factors are considered, there is no reasonable ground to enlarge the accused on bail.
all right, sir.
Because of the gravity of the offense, or the drug peddler committing such offenses in future, there are no reasonable grounds to release him on bail.
Right.
Definitely,
Right.
court will decline to grant bail.
All right, sir.
Also, we have another question from Krishna Kumar K, who asks, what is the procedure to get a person out of prison once bail has been granted?
Yeah, once bail is granted, the condition will be there to the subjective satisfaction of the trial court. The accused or the applicant shall furnish the surety, either one surety or two sureties with bond of sum of rupees 2 lakh, and surety has also signed the bond. The signing of the bond is not depositing the money of 2 lakh bond. In the event the accused doesn't turn up to the court, then the bond executed by the surety will be forfeited, and whatever the property which has been offered as surety, it will be auctioned, and that amount will be forfeited.
And thank you, sir, very much. The final question is from Shekhar Sahu, who asked that he says that while reading the news, he read that while a judge was passing a bail order, he restricted the accused from using social media or Facebook. He's asking whether that particular order with respect to the bail would infringe one's right to life under Article 21.
Can you repeat that again?
So, sir, he read recently in the news that a judge, while granting bail, had placed certain restrictions on the accused's on the accused, so that he would not use social media, would not use Facebook. He is asking that the imposition of this certain clause, would that be restrictive and an infringement under the Article 21?
Yeah, while granting bail, definitely the judge would have appreciated what is the background of the case. If the offense was committed with respect to the social media or with related to internet issues, definitely the condition imposed by the judge will hold good, and it is reasonable. Depends upon the offense he has committed.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. This, I think, brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you once again for running us through bail and non-bailable offenses. I feel that it was very informative. We'd like to thank you all for joining us from Lloyd's side. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out to conduct this webinar. If you have any other questions for Dilraj sir, please send him an email. We shared the email ID in the first slide of the presentation. And thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yeah, I too thank you, Team Lloyd. It was wholehearted support from you. And in future also, in any of the legal issues, if I get an opportunity, I'll be happy to address the webinar.
We'd be happy to have you again, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all the viewers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.